RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on training, diet, supplementation, life, IFBB pros, competitions, Arnold Classic 2017, and more. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, 2 months away from the Arnold Classic 2017, but a lot going on over the course of the next month. Of course, on January 28th, later this month, we're going to have Bros versus Pros at ProFit Fitness in Deer Park, New York, with Akeem Williams and Colette Nelson. And then, of course, you're going to be going out to the West Coast for your Guru course. Why don't you tell the fans a little bit more about it?
January 14th, I will be in sunny San Diego, California. Derek Farnsworth helped put this event together. We're going to be having the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course. I'll be teaching everything about nutrition, supplementation, performance-enhancing drugs, growth hormone, steroids, insulin, all peptides, everything, contest prep, off-season, men, women, detoxification, blood testing. I go over everything, and you get an 85-page manual with all my plays, like my playbook, I like to say, all my routines in there and all my protocols. It's a 10-hour class. It goes from 9 in the morning to 7 at night. We go to lunch and dinner together, and although I don't pay when I travel, I don't pay because I got a lot of expenses. But the bottom line is that we're going to have a great day together and a great learning experience. It's going to be 4 years of college in one day. So, guys, I know we're almost filled up. Matter of fact, I think we only have like 1 or 2 spots left, but I probably would make an extra 2 spots just because I'm traveling. So, guys, you got to go to DavePalumbo.com and sign up. I know a lot of people like to sign up the last minute. That's when I usually get the most people. So don't wait, because if I can't fit any more people in the room that Derek has prepared at Hardcore Fitness, okay, I got to stop. I got to close the class. So if you are thinking about doing it, you're not sure, sign up and do it now, because I promise you it will be an experience for you. Also, obviously, January 28th, Johnny and I will be in New York, back in Long Island, for the Bros vs. Pros at ProFit, thanks to Alex Luca over there, who is the owner. We're going to have a great barbecue, and it's a whole big party she's throwing there. And the free food and samples and obviously tons of lifting, and you can win up to $2,000 in cash prizes. And so I'm sure all the regulars will be out there. And look, it's free to enter. It's free to watch. If you can't make it because you don't live around the area, you can watch it live on RXMuscle.com, because we'll be live streaming it.
And of course, if you haven't already downloaded the app, the Dave Palumbo Experience, available on DavePalumbo.com, and it's available on both Android and Apple devices. Let's get to your questions. We start on the Muscle Central Forum on RXMuscle.com. You can ask your question there. If you're watching us live on YouTube, hit the like button, hit subscribe. We appreciate your support as always. You can ask your question on the right-hand side, the chat box on the right-hand side of the video player, on the official Facebook page, and then, of course, on Twitter using hashtag AskDave. Let's go to Hormone, only that it's not spelled like hormone. It's a little NSFW. Dave, I hate this show. I hate Sadiq. I hate you. I hate species. I hate money. The guy hates everything, and I love it. My question is, if people say high and low estrogen sides are the same, example, water retention with high and low estrogen, then why do bodybuilders bomb their estrogen pre-contest?
Well, that's just not the case. When you have low estrogen, you don't have water retention with low estrogen. If anything, you might have dry joints. Low estrogen, you might have low sex drive with low estrogen. Usually, some people get a little flat because the androgen receptors are not as receptive, but you'd much rather have a low estrogen than higher estrogen, especially when you're dieting and getting ready for competition. So that's a little bit of a misnomer. Once again, most guys overdo the estrogen blockers, but you don't see it in their physique. They still look dry as can be. I just think that an effective dose is good. Overdoing it is not good, but overdoing it is better than underdoing it.
Let's go to IP1211. Now, Dave, this question might have come up before, so if it has, let me know, and We'll refer the viewers to the last episode. It's from IP11211. He followed your advice after his last cycle in PCT, stayed clean for a good 3 months, had to battle with a bit of low libido and mood, but lost about 5 to 7 pounds, and now his body just exploded. So thank you, Dave. All right, question is, when you count the protein for your athletes, do you count only direct sources, chicken, eggs, etc., or protein from all sources? And do you weigh chicken, fish, beef, raw, or cooked?
You weigh protein cooked, okay? So after it's cooked, then you can weigh it on your scale, your food scale. And I don't really calculate the protein that would be in like nuts, for instance, or like legumes or anything like that, or even peanut butter for that matter. I kind of just measure the protein that you're eating direct sources of. Same thing with carbs. I don't really calculate carbs that are intrinsically in the food. Like if your green beans have 1 gram or 2 of carbs, I'm not really worried about that.
Let's go to Mikey Cakes. I would love to know your protocols on running SARMs, such as dosages and lengths.
You know what? I got to be honest with you, and I've said this before. I am not a big SARMs person. I don't think they work that well. I haven't seen people who have gotten good results from them. It's probably better than taking nothing, but not that much better. So because of the fact that there really hasn't been a lot of studies with them and we don't really know what the side effects of these things are, to me, if you're going to go the SARMs route, you might as well just go the anabolic steroid route. I believe that they're probably the same safety, same degree of safety with both of them. And I think steroids have been around a lot longer, so we kind of know what to expect from them.
Let's go to Icon Show Off. Dave, I'm looking to start my first cycle ever of Test C and DECA. To put on the most muscle, should I train for power and strength in the gym, or should I stick to hypertrophy type training and chase the pump?
I'm a big believer in stimulating the muscle with maximum weight with good form for, anywhere from 4 to 8 reps. I think that's the ideal muscle building range, at least for me. I've never seen high reps building muscle in normal people. That doesn't mean that some of the genetic freaks don't grow from doing reps. I know Paul Dillette would do 10-pound dumbbells and he would grow 25-inch arms. But for most people, you got to really stimulate that muscle, okay? And you got to get home and rest. Overtraining the muscle is not the way to grow. So I'm not a big advocate of a huge amount of reps, and I'm not a big advocate of a huge amount of sets. So you got to find what works well for you. Get in the gym. As Lee Haney said, stimulate, don't annihilate, go home and rest and recover.
Let's go to Mean Green 123. Dave, what are your thoughts on insulin mimickers and also IGF-1 inhibitors such as somerelin? Also, do you recommend any dry compounds to cruise on alongside TRT testosterone?
Sid, give me that one more time, please.
Sure. So first, your thoughts on insulin mimickers and also IGF-1 inhibitors such as somerelin. Part 2, do you recommend any dry compounds to cruise on alongside TRT testosterone?
Everyone knows that I'm not a cruiser. There's no cruising. When you go off, you're off. There's no staying on like Ativar or any of that. Bridging and all this cruising crap does not allow your receptors to regenerate. So that's a bundle of crap. The growth hormone releasing peptides, they're pretty good. Some of them are good. They're not going to be anything equal to growth hormone itself, but they have an effect. The first thing that you said was what was the first?
Insulin mimickers, and you mentioned somerelin by name.
Yeah. Insulin mimickers to me are waste. Okay, to me, there's 2 types of insulin mimicker if you really want, and they're not really mimickers. One is a facilitator. In other words, like a compound like chromium or cinnamon or fish oil. These compounds will make insulin work better because it makes the receptors more receptive. Chromium is really much just more of a cofactor, but fish oil has been shown to increase insulin sensitivity. Cinnamon, same thing. So to a degree, you could get some slightly better blood sugar control. You probably won't see too much compositionally with your body. You're probably not going to drop a lot of fat using those, but it will certainly help a diet, if you're on one, work better. That's why people find that when they eat fish on their diet, they lose weight quicker because their insulin receptors are more receptive, so you produce less insulin. Less insulin means less fat storage. Some of the insulin mimickers, which implies that the actual supplements act like insulin, the one comes to mind from back in my day was vanadyl sulfate. You took vanadyl and it actually dropped your blood sugar. It pushed nutrients into the cells. It was good. We used it back in the day, and the problem is if you didn't eat enough carbs, you got really low blood sugar in the gym and you felt terrible. But they're very imprecise, meaning that you don't really know how much is going to affect how many grams of carbs. So if you're really looking to drive nutrients into the muscle cells because your blood sugars are running high, maybe because you're on a high amount of GH, you're probably better off just taking insulin at that point.
Let's go to, I'm not going to mention his name only because it could be the pro, it could not be, but whatever. Question is, ask Dave, best steroids for cartilage regrowth or to prevent damage?
Well, you got to remember, steroids, anabolic steroids, work on skeletal muscle, which is the muscle that we build up in the gym. Cartilage is not muscle. So anabolic steroids have no effect on cartilage, ligaments, and tendons. That's why, the old saying was guys who take steroids are much more prone to muscle tears. And it wasn't that the muscle was tearing, because the muscle, the end of the muscle is a ligament or tendon, and it attaches to a bone or another, whatever. I guess it attaches to the bone. Some muscles attach to each other, but mostly to the bone. And because of this, the muscles get bigger from the steroids, but the ligaments and tendons don't grow. And so a lot of times the muscles become too strong for the tendons. Growth hormone, however, does affect tendon and cartilage, okay? And it does increase its strength and I guess you could say fortitude. So taking growth hormone with steroids will, cover the muscle and cover the connective tissue and ligaments. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, Dave, I tore a tendon off, a pec tendon, and I just got a repair, what should I take? What's your protocol? I usually recommend they take some growth hormone, 2 IUs a day, in the morning with breakfast, because that's going to help that heal better. Taking, testosterone and DHEA is not going to make that tendon or cartilage heal quicker. As a matter of fact, it might make it worse because the muscle's going to get too strong and it might start pulling on that tendon before it's properly healed. So I always tell people to stay away from steroids when they're healing for a tendon or cartilage damage, and stick with growth hormone.
Let's go to our Instagram page. Again, if you're not following us, it is official_RXMuscle. Brent Dunn. And before I ask his question, he puts in parentheses, yes, I know you hate what he's about to say. Hate the show, yada, yada, yada. My question is, can you take painless pumps while cruising on 200 mg test? And he goes, I know you hate that. Off means off, blah, blah, blah. And still see the full effects of the product, or should one just wait until starting a proper cycle to use it?
He's talking about site injection oils, and as you know, I've talked about this before, and the two that I really feel are science-based and that the only ones that anyone should really consider using would be the Chris Clark's synthesized pump and pose, and then there's the painless pumps. Those two are great products. I sell both of them, and I'm not just giving this sales pitch here. The reason I sell both of those, I can sell any ones I want, is because those work, those two. The great thing about them is because they have no drug in them or no steroid in them or anything like that matter, you can take them when you're off. That's an absolutely fine thing to do. You can cruise on site injection oils because there's no drug in there. That's absolutely fine, and you will get benefits from it. You don't need to be on anabolic steroids because you're still hyperfeeding those muscles and creating volumization there. So that is something that can be done if you psychologically need to do something while you're off.
Corey Emerson on YouTube. Dave, can DHEA really boost testosterone?
In women it probably can, because remember, women don't produce testosterone, but they do a little bit. And the little bit that they do produce is from DHEA. So their adrenal glands produce this dihydroepiandrosterone hormone, which then inside their cells can convert to testosterone in very small amounts. But that's how they build muscle in natural women. Okay, so for a woman taking 25 to 50 milligrams of DHEA a day, they'll actually see some muscle gains and some fat loss. For men, not so much, but as you get older, you can see a benefit from it. Now, before the whole advent of hormone replacement therapy, where guys were going for testosterone shots, guys used DHEA. I used to have my dad on 100 or 200 milligrams a day of this stuff, and he felt good on it, he told me, which is amazing because my dad doesn't really feel anything usually. So to me, it's better for women. A lot of guys will contact me and say, oh, my girlfriend, my wife, her sex drive's really low. The doctor wants to put her on testosterone. I'm like, look, try DHEA first, 25, 50 to 50 milligrams per day, and usually more than 99% of the time, it solves the problem.
Our producer Johnny Styles informs us that we are actually live right now on Instagram. So, of course, that feature is available. And, of course, Johnny, the tech guru, making sure that this episode is live on all sorts of different platforms. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. And again, if you want to ask your questions, you can ask in the YouTube chat room or directly on Instagram as well as the Muscle Central Forum on RXMuscle.com, Facebook, and Twitter. Martin Bet 247. Dave, my sister recently had surgery to remove 2 tumors on her breast. Would it be wise to follow a keto diet? Also, she was informed to drink alkaline water. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, obviously, alkalinity is a big thing with the main three things with cancer is alkalinize the body, okay, oxygenate the body, and reduce the sugar intake. Get rid of it because sugar feeds cancer. Oxygen kills cancer, alkalinity kills cancer because it enhances our immune system. And that's really the 3-tiered approach. Can a ketogenic diet help cancer? Absolutely, because you're cutting out all the carbs. The carbs are the sugar. That's the fuel for the cancer cells. So if you starve out the cancer cells, they die. So ketogenic diets have been very, very beneficial to cancer patients. As a matter of fact, the Quest nutrition team, as we all know and love, they did a whole study. They have like a whole ranch for dogs with cancer, and they treat them on ketogenic diets, and they cure these dogs. It's amazing. I did a little interview with Ron, the owner of Quest, about it, and you can watch it on our YouTube channel. It's amazing what they're doing for these dogs, and I'm sure a lot of the data they're collecting will be used for human studies at some point in the future.
Let's go to Anas_cow. Dave, how much protein is too much for thermogenic effects?
How much protein is too much for a thermogenic effect? I'm not really sure what the question is.
I'm not sure either. Unless that's the question. We'll go on to the next one. Brett McCabe. Actually, you know what? Anas_cow, if you're watching live right now and you want to clarify, please do so and we'll answer your question. Brett McCabe. Dave, recent studies have shown that frequent BCAA ingestion can inhibit tryptophan uptake into the brain as they compete for the same transporter, resulting in decreased serotonin in the brain and all the negative effects that come with it. What are your thoughts on that?
Doesn't surprise me one bit. I've been saying for years that excessive use of branched-chain amino acids will throw the balance and ratios of the other amino acids way off. And because the brain uses these amino acids as neurotransmitters, I can absolutely see these BCAAs getting in the way. Because I know people that drink this stuff all day long. I helped a guy from South America. He couldn't lose weight. This guy was so out of shape. And his diet looked pretty good to me. And then I looked and he was drinking like 20 grams of branched chains like 6 times a day. I'm like, you know how many calories that is and how much protein that is? I'm like, I cut all the branched chains out and the guy and all the glutamine he was taking, same thing. Loading up with glutamine. Those are calories. They're amino acids. And you know what? Not only did he lose weight quickly, but he actually felt better. Because when you're barraging your body with just one type of amino acid, or even 2 or 3 types, remember there's 21 amino acids. You're hitting your body with only 3 or 4 of them in huge amounts. They throw the ratio of the other ones off. Not smart. If you take a branched chain, while you're working out or before you train, because you like it, that's great. Don't be drinking this stuff all day.
I'm glad somebody asked this upcoming question because we just talked about alkaline water and how you're very high on alkaline water. Another product, Dave, that you're very high on is apple cider vinegar. And I know you've talked about it in previous episodes a long time ago, but let's get a refresher on it. Abdul El Asawi wants to know the benefits, in your opinion, of apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, just to mention on the alkaline water, not everyone has money for an alkaline water filter, and not everyone wants to go to Whole Foods and buy alkalinized water. You could, I sell a product called the pH9 generator. It's a shaker bottle basically. You put your water in it and leave it in there for 5 minutes, and it alkalinizes the water. It's available at DavePalumbo.com. It's like $39 or something like that, and it lasts like for at least a year. It'll be good for you, and you can make 10 things of water a day. And it's a no-brainer. You throw it in your gym bag. You got it with you all the time. You can take it to work. It's a great way to get alkalinized water. And remember, you want to really ingest alkalinized water between meals, not while you're eating food. Now, it doesn't matter if you have it while you're eating food, but it's not going to benefit you unless it's on an empty stomach. Because you don't want to have protein in your stomach, because then your body's releasing acidity into the stomach to help the digestive enzymes. Having said that, I forgot what I was actually originally commenting. Oh, the alkalinized water, apple cider vinegar, right? Okay.
Apple cider vinegar, right?
Apple cider vinegar does two things. Number one, if you do have an acidic stomach, you get a lot of acid reflux. It can neutralize that instantly, because what it does is it's acidic in itself. So when you put a slightly acidic compound into your stomach stops producing hydrochloric acid. And that will stop that indigestion feeling you get. So to me, I call it the instant antacid. But from an alkalizing perspective, if you get the apple cider vinegar from Bragg's that has the quote mother in it, the mother is the pulp of the apple. And that pulp, and when you see it, when you shake the bottle up that you get, you'll see that it all floating in there. That pulp is what, or ash they call it, is what alkalinizes the body. So it reduces the acidity in the body and raises the alkalinity, which is how our immune system functions at maximum and makes us feel good and puts us in a state of good health. So I like to use the apple cider vinegar, especially in guys that are toxic, 3 to 5 times a day in 8 ounces of water. Then you can kind of taper off. I have it in my refrigerator. I don't always use it. I might do it once in a while because I think I'm very alkalinized. But if you feel toxic, or you feel like you got bad breath, or but your stomach's upset, do it at least 3 times a day. You'll love it. I'm telling you, you'll feel great on it.
Let's go to Roderick_Kennedy. Dave, is there any value in overtraining? And if so or not, what will be considered, in your opinion, overtraining?
That's a good question, but overtraining on a limited basis will probably cause muscle growth, meaning that, let's say you normally do legs once a week, and for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, you do legs twice a week, or 2 weeks in a row, you do it twice a week, take a week off, and do it again. You might get some growth from that, but if you continue to do that, for the next 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, you'll probably lose muscle in your legs. So limited time overtraining can be like a boost to get past the plateau, but it's not something you want to do on a regular basis, because then you'll get the opposite of that, which will be muscle loss.
Let's go to Caleb Grits, and he's calling Johnny Styles and myself. So Johnny, I know you're there. Put yourself in front of the camera, all right? Because Caleb Grits is calling you out. Caleb Grits wants to know, well, I'll go with the I hate. I don't really have a good I hate, but I can't see how Sid and Johnny can be around a bodybuilding great such as Dave Palumbo and still have no urge to pick up a single weight. Now, I myself have been working out. I know you can't tell. That is just my frame. Johnny, you want to jump in front of the camera and show Caleb Grit what you got?
He can't because
he says he can't right now.
He can't because he hasn't been training. He just went back to the gym 2 days ago. So he's a New Year's resolution guy. But
no.
The excuse was the move. It was very mentally traumatic for him. So he's finally back at the gym, and he's doing a 16-week transformation. He's doing a 16-month transformation, and by this time in 2018, he'll look great.
Caleb, but then I'm going to have to do it before and after just for you, my friend. So between now and the Arnold, I will take pictures, I will show them to you, and then we will see who hasn't picked up a single weight. All right, question. My trainer has me on a diet where I can't have any carbs till post-workout. Then he has it at 100 grams and 50 grams before bed. I haven't said anything, but I can't see how this is beneficial. Please shed some light on this.
It's the whole carb backloading approach, where guys they believe that after you weight train, because your body will produce what's called GLUT4 receptors, which are receptors that allow you to absorb glucose into the cells without the need for insulin. So exercising stimulates these production of these receptors. So obviously, if you have a lot of these receptors after you train and then you eat a lot of carbs, your body will absorb all the carbs, without even releasing any insulin. So any extras has a much less chance of getting into the fat cells. That's the theory behind it. And then obviously that effect will continue for a few hours after you train. So theoretically, you're a better carbohydrate metabolizer after you work out. That's the theory. Does it really play out like that? To some degree it does, but I don't think I'm a big believer of figuring out how many grams of carbs your body requires per day. How do you do that? That means you got to figure out how many grams of carbs you need to just refill glycogen stores, but not have extra that's going to go into fat storage. And the only way to figure that out is trial and error. Once you figure out how many you need, just divide it equally over all your meals. Because then you're going to know all those carbs are going into glycogen storage. If you're eating too many of them, you'll see yourself getting fatter and bloatier, so you'll cut them back. If you feel like you're too depleted, then you got to raise them a little bit. And eventually you'll find the right amount that you need for your body. And that might change from year to year depending on how much muscle you have. But that's really the best way to do it, I believe.
Couple of quick hitters, Dave. One from YouTube. Will RXMuscle be at FIBO?
Probably not. Unless I get a sponsor who steps up and says, hey, Dave, we want you there. We want to sponsor your European coverage. And then we could talk about it. But we would send our crew there if, like I said, we had a sponsor. But we're trying to cover mostly the big shows like the Olympia, the Nationals, the Arnold, and we maybe New York Pro. We cover some other little ones if we're in the area and stuff like that. But that's really what the fans want. And then we really spend a lot of time on just coverage and analysis and TV programming. I'd rather put my efforts into original TV programming, giving you guys entertainment on a daily basis, than spending all my money that we have, from sponsors on going to one big show. Because the weekend will be great coverage, but then I'd rather then we're skimping out on all the other great coverage we do. So I'm really making a concerted effort in 2017 to really focus on the original TV programming.
David Gulch wants to know if you found a gym in your new location.
Yeah, Johnny and I and Amanda and Karina are working out a Gulf Coast Fitness in Cape Coral, right here on Cape Coral Parkway. There's actually two. There's one in Fort Myers too. We go to the one in Cape Coral, which is like literally we could walk there from our office. So for now, I like it a lot. There's a lot of members there, but no one's ever there. It's always empty. So I never have to fight for machines. The people are nice. I know a couple people there. We talk, but we don't waste time chatting. And I get in and I get out, and that's the key. And there's a Starbucks across the street. I get my decaf coffee, iced coffee. I drink that. I go to the gym. I think that I have a caffeine high, even though I don't, and I go home after that. So that's where I've been training right now.
Shout out to John De La Rosa and Derek Farnsworth watching this episode of Ask Dave. Always good to have them around. Derek Farnsworth, Dave wants to know, who is your favorite short bodybuilder?
Derek Farnsworth, of course. I mean, come on. That's a very, very simple. I will say one thing about Derek. Derek might not be the best short bodybuilder of all time, but he's definitely got to be one of the hardest working ones. And he's the only guy I know who's almost 50 years old and he's still squatting like a maniac, deadlifting, lifting like he's 18 years old. I wish my body worked as good as his. And you know what? When I see him on the 13th of January, which is the day before the Guru course, he's going to be working on me for about an hour and a half. I have a lot of injuries, and I stand crooked now. I got so much stuff, Derek, that you're going to be working on. And the great thing about for you is that I can't take a lot of, you won't have to work that hard on me, believe me, because I'm not as big as I used to be. But I'm looking forward to seeing you and your beautiful wife, and we'll have a great time out there in California.
Scott Treptow, I hate this show more than a grapefruit hates being bought by Kai Green. Very nice. If the typical keto diet is 75% fat, 20% protein, and 5% carbs, why is it not a good choice for losing body fat versus your keto diet?
Well, my version of the ketogenic diet, my ketogenic diet, Palumbo ketogenic, whatever you want to call it, is more performance-oriented. In other words, you could lose fat on a high-fat, moderate protein, low-carb diet, but you'll build muscle and lose fat on a high-protein, moderate-fat, low-carb diet. So I switched the high-fat to high-protein, and I switched the high-fat to moderate-fat because I make it athlete specific. In other words, I don't care if people are just losing weight. I want people to look good when they lose the weight too. You don't want to just be skinny. You want to be muscular and ripped. So bodybuilders require more protein than the average person does because of what we're doing in the gym, which is breaking down muscle tissue. So if you don't eat a high protein diet, you're going to have a lot tougher time repairing and building muscle. You might repair muscle, but you're not going to build extra muscle on top of that.
Another shout out, Robert Timms of Classic Physique fame, watching us live. Great job at the 2016 Olympia. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing in this upcoming contest year. Drunken Sessions, Dave, what do you think about combining HGH and fast insulin in the same shot? Are there any dangers of becoming diabetic running HGH with insulin?
No, you could run HGH and insulin at the same time, but I wouldn't put them in the same syringe, only because they're buffered in different pHs. So, acidity kills, acidity is not good for one, whereas alkalinity is better. So once again, it's a small insulin shot. I would do your growth hormone and insulin in separate injection. Also, I like to do growth hormone intramuscular, whereas insulin is always done subcutaneous. I'm not going to say who it is, but I know someone who by accident took an intravenous shot of insulin just recently and wound up in the hospital for almost 2 days because insulin should not enter the bloodstream that quickly.
Let's take one more here. I'm trying to find, here we go. You know what? I think he actually deleted this question. He asked it earlier on. Let's go to KJ_91. Dave, apart from the prolactin side effects, could you run two compounds such as trenbolone acetate and NPP or DECA together in a cycle? Would this increase mass more, or would it be better to run each individually in their own cycle?
You know, I used to run trenbolone and DECA together with testosterone, and I loved it. You know, people are like, oh, isn't it the same thing? I'm like, no, it's not the same thing. Just because it's a 19-nortestosterone-derived compound, both DECA and trenbolone, doesn't mean they work the same or they hit the same receptor. So I loved DECA, trenbolone, and testosterone. That was a great trio, I thought, you know, in the off-season or even pre-contest, you know, initially when I first started my diet. Because DECA is so good on the joints and trenbolone makes you so aggressive and strong that it's a great complement together. And then you balance that off with a nice high amount of testosterone at 1,000 milligrams per week, and you got the perfect storm to build muscle and repair muscle. So to me, that was always a great, duo. Now some people obviously have problems with those compounds and raising prolactin levels and having sex drive issues. If you're one of those people, it sucks for you. You probably shouldn't do both of them together. You might have to take a prolactin inhibitor like Dostinex, and if that doesn't work, you might not be able to use those compounds at all. It depends. Everyone's body responds differently. Some people are allergic to peanuts, some people aren't. And you got to figure out where you fall into that spectrum.
Very cool. We actually also have Danny Hester, the first ever Classic Physique Olympia champion, watching us. So, Danny, we really enjoyed what you did, obviously, on the stage, winning the first ever Classic Physique title. A lot of people, a lot of pros, Dave, watching us on the new Instagram Live. So, great job by Johnny Styles setting that one up.
And Sid, I think it's important to mention that because Instagram doesn't store this video, if you guys missed part of the show or you want to watch the replay or want to watch it again because I gave a lot of information, you go to our RXMuscle.com site or the RXMuscle YouTube channel, and it'll be on there on replay. It won't be on Instagram. So, and if you guys love the content, make sure you subscribe to the RXMuscle YouTube channel, because that tells us that you guys love what we're doing, and it enables us to do more content like this.
And of course, if you love the show, tell us that you hate the show. Flexing Joe, Dave, I hate the show and all of your shows, as a matter of fact. Any tips or supplements for helping digestion? All of us bodybuilders eat a ton of food every day, as you know, and could use some digesting it all.
I never was really big on the digestive enzymes. To me, they never did anything, but I probably just didn't need them then. I do know people that like to take digestive enzymes like about a half hour, 20 minutes before they eat their meal, and supposedly it helps them digest their food. If you don't have any stomach issues or any kind of colitis issues, you're probably not going to benefit from taking digestive enzymes. what I find mostly is that guys eat very hard to digest foods. When you're eating a ton of cheese or you're eating foods that have a lot of fats in it, it makes it harder to digest the protein. For instance, go eat a pound of fish and then go eat a pound, and then the next day have a pound of steak. Okay, it's going to take a lot longer to digest that pound of steak. It's going to lay in your stomach like lead. Okay, and that's because there's a lot of fat in that steak, and it's tougher for your body to break it down and digest it. So if you're having trouble with digestion, stick to foods that are more easily digested: fishes, lean chickens, whey proteins, eggs. Always easier than the heavy red meats, and even some of the dark meat chicken is a little more difficult too.
One last question, and it's from Eugene Schomburg on YouTube. Dave, correct my pronunciation if I butcher this, but his question is, what do you think about, is it kombucha or kombucha?
Yeah, kombucha.
Kombucha versus Greek yogurt for probiotics and quark for protein.
And what for protein? Corn. And what was the third thing?
Yeah, quark. Q-U-A-R-K.
I don't even know what quark is. I thought quark.
Right, so let's go with the first part.
I thought quark was a subatomic particle that they the smallest subatomic particle. That's what I know as a quark. Anyway, I love the word quark. A lot of people don't know. You know where quark comes from? There was a novel by James Joyce. What's his name? James Joyce. Called Finnegan's Wake, and they mentioned the word quark in there. That was the first time it was ever mentioned in the English language, and someone took that and made it the smallest particle that we have. Anyway, the question was what again? I confused myself already.
What do you think about kombucha versus Greek yogurt as far as probiotics is concerned?
You know, I do drink kombucha. I like it. It's like a fermented type of carbonated drink. I don't think it has a lot of probiotics. They say it does, but I don't think it does really. I don't buy into that. It has a little bit in it, just like Greek yogurt has probably more in there. Kefir has even more probiotics, which is like, it almost is like a yogurt too, but it's a fermented milk. I personally, and if you guys have watched this show religiously, you know what I'm going to say. I prefer Bubby sauerkraut because I don't do well in dairy. Dairy bothers me. It makes me mucousy. I don't digest lactose well. So I use Bubby sauerkraut. They sell it in regular supermarkets now. It's fermented sauerkraut that they put probiotics into, and they have billions and billions of cultures of these probiotics in like a couple of forkfuls of this stuff. I mix it into my rice. I mix it into my chicken, my fish dishes. It's crunchy. It's a much better sauerkraut than you're used to getting like at the hot dog stand, which doesn't have any fermentation in it. So it's a crispy sauerkraut. Like I said, it's about $7 for a jar, but the jar lasts a long time. That's what I use for my probiotics.
Another shout out, Breon Ansley, watching the show as well. Of course, we have Live with Breon Ansley from a few weeks ago available on RXMuscle.com and the YouTube channel. Again, if you're watching the show on Instagram Live, this show is not going to be available once it's over. It is, however, going to be available on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You're not going to miss any of our shows, updates, segments, original programming. We have Iron Debate. It's going to go up live with John Romano, Chris Aceto, and, of course, Dave Palumbo. And the replay of this episode is going to be live within a matter of moments on RX Muscle's YouTube channel. Dave, any parting words before we wrap this one up?
I am actually going, I didn't tell you this yet, I'm going tomorrow to Tampa, and I'm going to the guy who invented the shoulder replacement, believe it or not, Dr. Frankel in Tampa Bay. He's supposed to be like the best, one of the best in the country, and he's going to be doing an evaluation of my shoulder situation, which I think I'm going to be getting probably more than likely. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but I'm going to probably need at least to get the left one done initially, and then maybe the right one the following year. But so I'm going to see him. But the great thing is, while we're in Tampa, we're going to go see Titan Medical Center. And nice. You know how I feel about Titan Medical. I have never met them, their clinic at least. I've always just done it virtually online. So I'm going to go to the clinic, see what they got there. We're going to check out all the new products. They're the ones I told you. You go to TitanMedicalCenter.com, and you don't have to see a doctor in person. You can do everything virtually online. You can get hormone replacement from them, estrogen blockers, HCG, Clomid, They prescribe DECA for joints if you have joint problems, Anavar, for women. And they have crazy great injectable vitamin cocktails. My favorite one being the glutathione cocktail they have, which is a tremendous antioxidant that you could take into an injection form. They also have something called Tighten Up, which is an injectable carnitine mixture. They have something that's great post-workout, or it's a high branch chain amino acid injectable. They got such unique stuff there that no one else has got that I love it. I can't wait to see Charisse and John in person and do a great interview. Johnny's going to be coming with us to video that. So that's tomorrow. Probably by Monday, you'll probably see some the fruits of our labor there.
It's been another episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. Again, like this episode, follow us on YouTube. For Johnny Styles, Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.